I answered on the second ring, already knowing what she would say. "I'll be staying late at work tonight. Don't wait for me." Tara's voice had that practiced smoothness, the same tone she used when pitching brand narratives to executives. Polished, rehearsed, empty. "Already had dinner," I said, letting the pause stretch just long enough. "With HR." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The silence on her end lasted 3 heartbeats. Then she laughed, forced and brittle. "What?" "Linda Rowe. We grabbed Thai food. She mentioned something about a company-wide ethics review coming up. Sounded serious." Another pause. I could picture her face, the micro-expressions she couldn't quite control when caught off guard, the slight widening of eyes, the way her left hand would move to her collarbone. "That's nice. I should go. Busy." "Sure. Love you." She hung up before saying it back. I set my phone on the kitchen counter and smiled at my reflection in the darkened window. Rain streaked the glass, turning the city lights below into abstract smears of gold and red. Our apartment sat on the 19th floor, high enough that you couldn't hear traffic, only the occasional wail of sirens. The smile wasn't happiness, it was recognition, the kind you get when data finally resolves into a pattern. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have smiled. 6 months ago, I was still pretending not to notice. The late meetings that multiplied like cells. The new perfume, expensive, worn on Tuesday nights when she claimed to be reviewing quarterly reports. The credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to. Split payments that suggested 2 people, always on days when I worked from home and she insisted on going to the office. I'm a data analyst. Pattern recognition is what I do. I spent 15 years at Aurelia Systems turning noise into narrative, finding signals in static, and my wife thought I wouldn't notice her affair because I'm quiet, because I don't yell, because I prefer spreadsheets to confrontation. People mistake calm for stupid. 3 weeks ago, I'd confirmed it. Not by hacking her phone or hiring some private investigator. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just data. Aurelia Systems tracks everything. Badge swipes, parking sensors, conference room reservations, expense reports, calendar invitations. It's supposed to optimize space utilization and improve workplace efficiency. What it actually does is create a comprehensive digital footprint of every employee's movements. And because I've worked there 12 years, I know people. Derek in IT, for instance. Good guy. Thinks I'm helping him debug some scheduling algorithm. Doesn't realize the sample data he pulled for me includes timestamps for every badge swipe in the Western regional offices. Tara's badge. Blake Rydell's badge. Same locations, same times. Conference rooms booked under fake meeting names. Parking spots next to each other at the Millbrae satellite office, the one she has no reason to visit because her team works downtown. Blake Rydell, regional HR partner. 39, divorced, drives a Tesla he can't quite afford. The kind of guy who wears expensive watches and talks about disruption. The kind of guy who thinks rules are for other people. He enforces the company ethics policy. That's his job. Workplace relationships, conflicts of interest, proper disclosure procedures. He's the one who sends those earnest emails about transparency and accountability. And he's been sleeping with my wife for 7 months. I walked to my home office and pulled up the file. Not hidden, not encrypted, just a folder labeled Budget Review 2024. Sitting there on my desktop where anyone could click it. Inside, spreadsheets, boring columns of numbers that would make most people's eyes glaze over. But if you knew what you were looking at, it told a story. Line items showing Tara's badge swiping into the Millbrae office at 2:17 p.m. on a Wednesday. Her calendar showing her in a downtown client meeting at that exact time. Blake's badge swiping in at 2:19 p.m. His calendar blocked for training development, no location specified. Conference room G412. Booked under facilities review from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. A room in a building neither of them had any business being in. 63 instances over 7 months, each one documented, each one a policy violation. I pulled up the draft email I'd sent yesterday, sent from a burner Gmail account to the anonymous ethics hotline Aurelia maintains. Professional tone, concerned employee. Possible undisclosed relationship between 2 employees, one in a supervisory capacity, potential conflict of interest given HR role. No names, not yet, just enough to trigger an audit. Linda Rowe had mentioned it at dinner because she trusts me. We've worked together on 3 major restructurings. She thinks I'm reliable. She mentioned the ethics review in passing, complaining about the extra workload, not realizing I was the reason it existed. My phone buzzed. Text from Tara. "You really had dinner with Linda?" I typed back. "Yeah, why?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Just surprised. You didn't mention it. You didn't ask. No response. I closed my laptop and walked to the living room. Our apartment looked like something from a catalog. Tara's taste. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and white. Abstract art that cost thousands and meant nothing. Everything chosen to impress. The only thing I'd picked was the bookshelf. Mystery novels, mostly. Chandler, Hammett, some king. Stories about ordinary people in impossible situations, using their heads instead of their fists. I pulled out Dolores Claiborne and sat down to wait. She came home at 11:30. I heard her keys in the lock, the hesitation before she opened the door. When she walked in, her face had that tight, controlled expression she wore in crisis meetings. "Hey," she set her bag down, not quite looking at me. "You're still up." "Couldn't sleep." I marked my page. "How was work?" "Fine. Long." She moved to the kitchen, poured water she didn't drink. "So? HR? What was that about?" "Told you. Dinner." She needed to vent about some audit thing. "What kind of audit?" I shrugged. "Ethics compliance. Someone filed an anonymous report about workplace relationships not being properly disclosed. You know how corporate gets when legal gets nervous." Her hand tightened on the glass. "That's random." "Is it?" I stood up, stretched. She said they're reviewing all HR personnel first, making sure the people enforcing the policy are following it themselves. Smart, actually. Nothing undermines trust like hypocrisy. Tara's face had gone pale. "Did she mention specific people?" "No." "Why? Should she have?" "No. We work in communications. If there's a policy thing, we might need to handle messaging." "Makes sense." I walked past her toward the bedroom. "You should probably review the handbook. Section 7, I think. Relationship disclosure requirements. Good to be prepared." I closed the bedroom door before she could respond. Through the wall, I heard her grab her phone. Low, urgent voice. I couldn't make out words, but I didn't need to. She was calling Blake, warning him, panicking. I set an alarm for 6 a.m. and went to sleep. The next morning, I was at my desk by 7. Derek caught me in the kitchen making coffee. "Dude, you're here early." "Big week." I poured 2 cups, handed him one. "Hey, you still have access to those parking sensor logs?" "Yeah, why?" "Remember that optimization model I was building? Need to validate commute patterns against badge swipes. Make sure the time-to-desk calculations are accurate." "Sure, man. I'll pull last quarter's data. That enough?" "Perfect, thanks." He wandered off. I carried my coffee back to my desk. The open office layout at Aurelia is supposed to encourage collaboration. What it actually does is make privacy impossible. I could see 12 other people from my desk. Watch them arrive, leave, take breaks. See who talks to who avoids who. Blake's desk was in the HR section, glass-walled offices along the south corridor. I watched him arrive at 8:45, 15 minutes late. He looked tired, stressed. He went straight to his office and closed the door. Tara's team sat 2 floors up. I couldn't see her, but I didn't need to. I knew her patterns. By 9, Derek had emailed me the parking data. I merged it with the badge swipes, calendar data, and expense reports. The spreadsheet grew into something beautiful. Not evidence of cheating. That was just the spark. This was evidence of policy violations. Fraud, technically. Expense reimbursements for meals during hours they'd both clocked out. Conference rooms booked under false pretenses. Company resources misused. Nothing aggressive. Nothing illegal on my part. Just the facts. At 10, Linda Rowe sent a company-wide email. Subject line, mandatory ethics training and compliance review. I read it twice. Professional language about maintaining trust, transparency, accountability. All employees would complete updated training modules. HR personnel would undergo audits first, led by external consultants to ensure objectivity. My phone rang immediately. "Tara." "Did you see the email?" "Just now. Sounds thorough." "Evan." Her voice had an edge. "This is bad timing." "How so?" "It is. Can you come home for lunch? We need to talk." "I can't." "Meeting with finance at noon? Tonight?" Silence. Then, "Fine, tonight." She hung up. I sat back. The morning sun angled through the windows, cutting hard shadows across my desk. She's allergic to accuracy. His grin faltered. "Right, of course." Inside, I shut the door and exhaled. So Monica was already trying to rewrite my role. Typical. That evening, I set the dinner table as usual, because pretending still had its uses. Daniel walked in, loosening his tie, humming. "Long day," he said, kissing my cheek absently. "By the way, my mom wants to do dinner Sunday. She thinks we should talk about finances. Does she? I said, carefully cutting my chicken. He nodded, oblivious. You know how she is. She just wants to make sure you're secure if the company keeps growing. I nearly laughed out loud. Secure. The man was planning his own narrative, and he thought I'd play my part. Sure, I said. Sunday works. He smiled, relieved. You're the best, Em. I watched him across the table, every gesture suddenly transparent. The way he avoided my eyes when his phone buzzed. The little twitch in his jaw when he lied. I realized I wasn't married to a stranger. I was married to a story I'd outgrown. Later that night, when he fell asleep, I went into his office. The computer hummed quietly. I opened a drawer, searching, and there it was, a new contract draft labeled Equity Adjustment Proposal. My name wasn't anywhere in it. I stared at it for a long moment, then closed the drawer. No fury, just focus. Because I'd already decided. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to win. And when I did, I'd make sure he knew exactly who helped him build his empire, and who could take half of it with one signature. The next morning, he kissed my forehead on his way out. Love you, he said, casual, distracted. Love you too, I replied, smiling. But in my head, I was already in the courtroom, folder in hand, waiting for him to walk in and realize that the game was finally fair. He just didn't know it yet. Outside, the sprinklers hummed across the lawns, each droplet catching the sunlight like glass. Perfect lawns, perfect lies. And somewhere between them, I finally felt like myself again. The underdog had woken up. The lake road was narrower than I expected, and each turn felt like it might lead to some revelation that would rewrite my life. The trees leaned in close, tall enough to make me feel like I was driving through a tunnel of secrets. I didn't play music. Silence was more useful. It let me hear my thoughts sorting themselves into categories. Facts, suspicions, and plans. Daniel thought he was clever. Tech genius, investment whisperer, the man who turned coffee and arrogance into a company. But he'd forgotten something crucial. I'd built him from the ground up. I knew how his mind worked, the way he hid guilt behind confidence, the way he left digital fingerprints on every so-called secret. He could build apps, but couldn't hide his passwords. I'd already traced his messages, calendar invites, and that smugly labeled contact. SL Work. The work in question was apparently at a lake house he never mentioned owning. That's where I was headed now, on a Tuesday morning when every other responsible adult was at their desk or folding laundry. I'd told no one where I was going. I didn't want advice or pity or anyone telling me to take the high road. The high road was for people who hadn't been lied to. I slowed as the GPS announced, "Arriving at your destination." My destination looked like something from a lifestyle magazine. Gray siding, big windows, deck with white railings, and a view of a lake so still it looked fake. 2 cars sat out front. Daniel's in the same red convertible I'd seen before. Sophie's car looked as smug as she did. I parked a little down the dirt path, hidden behind a cluster of pines. The air smelled like wet leaves and secrets. My palms were clammy, but I wasn't scared. This wasn't about confrontation, it was reconnaissance. I wanted truth, and truth required observation. Through the side windows, I saw movement. Daniel was inside in jeans and a button-down, pouring wine at noon like the rules of real life didn't apply to him. Sophie leaned against the counter, blonde hair tucked perfectly behind one ear, wearing a loose sweater that screamed effortless charm. She laughed at something he said, a light, confident laugh that grated on me more than I'd admit. I inched closer, careful not to crunch gravel underfoot. The porch steps creaked faintly, but the wind covered the sound. I could see their reflections in the glass, her hand brushing his arm, his smile growing a little too proud. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't cinematic. It was simply ordinary. And somehow that made it worse. They looked like they'd done this before, many times, comfortable in their routine. He even poured her wine into the same kind of glass he used for me. Maybe he'd bought a bulk set. Efficiency over intimacy. I took out my phone, pressed record, and zoomed in. It wasn't about proof for court. I already had enough with the prenup. It was about understanding. Drove home through rush hour traffic, rain starting again. The city looked gray and worn, buildings like tombstones in the dusk. Tara was already there when I arrived, standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. Her face had the stretched look of someone who hasn't slept. They interviewed me today. I set my bag down. Who? That compliance woman, Patricia. She asked about Blake. What did you tell her? The truth, that we work together sometimes, that it's professional. Good. Evan. She moved closer. Did you do this? Do what? File that report. Start this whole investigation. I met her eyes. Would it matter if I did? Of course it would matter. This could destroy careers, reputations. Blake's on leave. They're talking about termination. Then I guess he should have disclosed his relationships properly. Her face went white. What are you saying? I'm saying the company has rules. Section 7, subsection C. Employees in romantic relationships must notify HR within 10 business days. Failure to disclose is grounds for discipline up to and including termination. If one party has supervisory authority over the other, or if there's a potential conflict of interest, it's automatic termination. You memorized the handbook? I read it. It's not complicated. Blake's in HR. Any relationship he has creates a conflict of interest. He's supposed to enforce these rules. Can't do that credibly if he's breaking them. Tara's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're talking about him like you know something. I know what the data shows. Badge swipes, parking logs, conference room bookings, 7 months of patterns that don't match official schedules. The color drained from her face completely. You're insane. No, I'm thorough. You're destroying lives over paranoia. I'm reporting policy violations. If there's nothing to hide, the audit will clear everyone. She stared at me. I could see her trying to decide something, weighing options, calculating. Is this about us? This is about ethics compliance. Nonsense. Her voice cracked. You think I'm having an affair? I didn't answer, just looked at her, watching the tells, the micro-expressions, the way her left hand moved to her collarbone. Are you? I asked finally. No. Then you have nothing to worry about. I walked past her to the bedroom and closed the door. Through the wall, I heard her crying. Quiet at first, then harder. After a while, she made a phone call. I couldn't hear the words, but the tone was clear. Desperation. I opened my laptop and checked the joint bank account. 3 hours ago, Tara had tried to transfer $15,000 to an external account I didn't recognize. The transfer was flagged for review because I'm the primary account holder and had set up transaction alerts last month. I declined the transfer and changed the account settings. All transactions over $500 now require dual approval. Then I opened our credit card accounts and canceled her access to 3 of them. Left one active with a low limit, enough for gas and groceries. Not enough for plane tickets or hotel rooms. Legal. All of it. I'd checked with a lawyer the week before. Prenup assets were separate, but joint accounts were just that. Joint. I could manage them however I wanted. I heard Tara's phone ring. Heard her answer, voice sharp. Then a crash. She'd thrown something. I closed my laptop and went to sleep. The next morning, Blake was waiting in the parking garage. I saw him when I pulled in at 6:30 a.m., standing next to a concrete pillar, hands in pockets. He looked like hell, unshaven, rumpled clothes, eyes red. I parked in my usual spot, 2 spaces from the elevator, took my time gathering my bag. When I got out, he was already walking toward me. Marsh. Blake. We need to talk. Do we? He stepped closer. Not threatening exactly, just proximity. The kind of move that's supposed to make someone uncomfortable. I didn't move. I know what you did. I filed an ethics report. Used the proper channels. That's what employees are supposed to do when they observe policy violations. You fabricated evidence. Did I? Or did I just pay attention? His jaw clenched. You're trying to destroy my career over some paranoid fantasy. If it's a fantasy, the audit will clear you, unless there's something to find. There's nothing. Then we're done here. I started to walk past him. He grabbed my arm. Not hard. Just contact. I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. Touch me again, and I'll add assault to the complaint. He let go like I'd burned him. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. You're an HR partner who had an undisclosed relationship with another employee, my wife. You're funny. Am I? I smiled. You used to say that. You stopped somewhere around the time your startup stopped needing my paycheck. He took a long sip, the kind that buys time. We've both changed, Em. True, I said, but only one of us changed the address of their meetings. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said lightly, just thinking out loud. For the rest of dinner, he talked about potential investors and new product lines. I nodded, playing the attentive wife role I'd perfected years ago. Inside, I was rewriting the ending. After he went to bed, I scrolled through Sophie's social media. She'd posted a photo earlier that day, a lake view, wine glasses, captioned, "Productive Tuesday with a visionary mind." I almost applauded her creativity. She'd hidden Daniel's reflection in the glass, but forgot the timestamp, Rookie mistake. I saved it. Another puzzle piece? The next morning, my lawyer called. Emily, that copy you found? Are you sure it's original? Signed and dated in Paris, with witness initials. It's airtight. She paused. Then this shifts the entire property valuation. You're not just entitled to support. You own part of his company by clause definition. I smiled into my coffee. That's what I thought. Do you want to proceed with a formal filing? Not yet, I said. I want him to walk himself into the hole first. When I hung up, I felt lighter, not happier. Happiness was a luxury for honest people, but purposeful. Over the next few days, I went through the motions. I met with clients, joined a neighborhood brunch, smiled at Monica when she mentioned how hard Daniel's been working. She said it like she was reciting a prayer. That's true, I said. He's been working overtime? At the lake? Her eyes narrowed. What lake? I shrugged. Oh, didn't he tell you? Then I changed the subject to scones. Let her wonder. That night, I sat outside on the porch, wine glass in hand, watching the lights flicker across the neighborhood. Greg strolled by with his dog, pretending not to stare at my house. He loved a story, and I was about to give him one. The next day, I stopped by Sophie's social feed again. She'd posted another picture, this time a champagne glass on Daniel's kitchen counter. My kitchen counter. The marble pattern was unmistakable. That was the moment something inside me steadied into resolve. No fury, no heartbreak, just certainty. I didn't need confrontation. I didn't need apologies. I needed results. So I waited, played patient, gathered proof like puzzle pieces. When Daniel mentioned a strategy dinner later that week, I smiled sweetly and asked what he'd like for breakfast tomorrow. He relaxed immediately. Guilt makes people predictable. The next morning, I left before him, claiming I had errands. In reality, I drove back to the lake house, this time with purpose. The same 2 cars were there. I parked farther away, walked the last quarter mile, and approached from the lakeside path. Through the glass wall, I could see them arguing. Sophie's hands waved wildly. Daniel looked defensive. Even from outside, I could guess the topic. Exposure. Maybe Monica had called him. Maybe the walls were already cracking. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I recorded a short clip of their gestures. Visual chaos, tension, familiarity. Then I turned and left. That night, I uploaded the clip to a private folder and labeled it Insurance. He came home later than usual, hair tousled, shirt untucked. Traffic, he said. Of course, I replied, closing my laptop. He smiled faintly, almost relieved that I wasn't accusing him. Poor Daniel. He still thought the silence meant surrender. What it really meant was that the match was already lit. He just hadn't noticed the fuse. Before bed, I stood at the window, watching the sprinklers spin across the lawns again. Every droplet shimmered in the porch lights, neat and rhythmic. Somewhere nearby, someone was laughing too loudly at a neighbor's barbecue. The world looked so normal, it was almost absurd. But under that surface, everything was shifting. Daniel had his secrets. I had mine now, too. And unlike his, mine came with legal weight, documented proof, and the kind of quiet precision that would make his arrogance look like a rookie mistake. I turned off the light and whispered to myself, let him sleep easy tonight. Because soon he wouldn't. The courthouse smelled faintly like floor polish and nerves. I sat on the wooden bench outside the hearing room, staring at the clock as if watching it could slow the inevitable. 10 minutes until Daniel walked in with that same confident swagger that once made me love him. 10 minutes until the version of our life he'd invented collapsed under its own arrogance. I wasn't scared. At least, that's what I told myself. What I felt was more like a tight coil of focus, the kind that comes after months of being dismissed, ignored, and underestimated. This acknowledges your cooperation and confirms you won't discuss the investigation with anyone outside this room. Sign at the bottom. I signed. They walked me out. In the hallway, Linda caught my arm. Evan, go home. Take a few days off. This is almost over. What happens to them? Blake's done. Gone by end of week. Tara? She hesitated. That's more complicated. She's not in HR. The disclosure requirement is less clear. She might survive with a suspension. That's not enough. It's what the policy allows. I pulled my arm free. Then the policy's broken. I walked away before she could respond. That night, I went to the Marriott. I didn't plan it. Just found myself driving downtown, parking in the garage, taking the elevator to the 7th floor. The room number was on the credit card statement. 714. I knocked. Tara opened the door. She was wearing a hotel robe, hair wet from the shower. When she saw me, her face cycled through surprise, fear, anger. What are you doing here? Can I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. The room was generic. King bed, desk, window showing the street below. Her laptop sat open on the desk, screen glowing. Nice room. Company paying? I'm using my own money. My money, joint account, remember? What do you want, Evan? I sat on the edge of the bed. They're firing Blake, tomorrow probably. You're suspended. I know. You could have avoided this. How? By confessing to something I didn't do? By telling the truth, 7 months ago, when it started. Her face hardened. There's nothing to tell. Stop. Please, just stop lying. I'm not... I have badge swipes, parking logs, conference room bookings, expense reports, text messages pulled from the company server through legal discovery. I know when it started. I know where you met. I know how many times. She went pale. You hacked company systems? I submitted a legal request through IT. Everything's documented. Everything's admissible. You're sick. No, I'm hurt. There's a difference. Tara moved to the window, stood with her back to me, silhouette against the city lights. Why are you doing this? Because you lied, not just about the affair, about everything, our marriage, our life. You looked me in the eye every day and lied. So you destroy my career? Blake's life? That's your revenge? It's not revenge. It's consequences. You violated policy. He violated policy. The company has rules. I'm just making sure they're enforced. She turned, tears on her face. I loved you. Past tense. That's honest, at least. This isn't you. You're not vindictive. You're not cruel. You're right. I'm not. But I'm also not stupid. And I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen just because confronting it is uncomfortable. What do you want from me? Nothing. Not anymore. I stood up. The apartment's mine. Bought it before we married. Prenup's clear on that. You have 30 days to move out. After that, I'm changing the locks. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. Evan, we're done. Sign the divorce papers when they arrive. Don't contest. If you fight, I'll make sure every detail of this comes out in court. Badge swipes, expense reports, text messages, all of it public record. Her face crumpled. You do that? To protect what's mine. Yes. I walked to the door, hand on the handle. I never meant to hurt you, she said quietly. I looked back. Then you shouldn't have done it. I left before she could respond. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. I stood alone in the mirrored box, watching myself. Same face, same body, different person inside. The garage was nearly empty. My footsteps echoed off concrete. I reached my car, unlocked it, sat behind the wheel. My hands were shaking again. I sat there for 10 minutes, breathing. Rain started, drumming on the roof. The city blurred through the windshield. Finally, I started the engine and drove home. The apartment was dark. I turned on one lamp, sat on the couch, looked at the bookshelf. Dolores Claiborne stared back at me. A story about a woman who murdered her husband and got away with it. Not because she was smart, because she was patient, because she knew how systems worked. I'd learned that lesson well. My phone buzzed. Text from Blake's number. Parking garage. Now. We finish this. I stared at the message. Every instinct said to ignore it, to let legal and HR handle everything, to stay away. But that wasn't really an option, was it? Some things needed to be finished face to face. I drove back to Aurelia's office. The garage was empty except for Blake's Tesla, parked near the elevator. He stood next to it, hands in pockets. Rain had soaked through his jacket. I parked under a camera. Deliberate choice. Then walked over. This is stupid, Blake. Yeah? Why? Because we're under surveillance. Whatever you're planning, it's being recorded. He looked up at the camera, then back at me. I don't care anymore. You should. You took everything. My job, my reputation, my future. You did that. I just documented it. Nonsense. He stepped closer. You're a bitter, pathetic man who couldn't handle his wife wanting someone else. So you weaponized HR, turned policy into a sword. The policy existed before I touched it. You broke it, not me. I loved her. That stopped me. What? Tara. I loved her. It wasn't just physical. It was real. Then why didn't you disclose it? Why hide? Because, he faltered, because she asked me to. Said it was too soon. That you were unstable. Unstable. Her words. I laughed. Couldn't help it. And you believed her? Why wouldn't I? Because she's a liar, Blake. That's what she does. She lied to me. She lied to you. She'll lie to the next guy, too. You don't know her. I was married to her for 7 years. I know exactly who she is. His hands clenched. You're destroying her. No, she destroyed herself. I'm just cleaning up. Blake lunged. Not a punch, just momentum, shoving me backward. I stumbled, caught myself against a car. Feel better? I asked. Not yet. He came at me again. This time I sidestepped. He hit the car instead, hard enough to trigger the alarm. Noise exploded through the garage. Blake swung wildly, connected with my shoulder. Pain bloomed. I shoved back, not hard, just enough to create space. Stop! This doesn't help. Yes, it does. He swung again. I ducked. His fist hit concrete pillar, crack of bone. Blake screamed, cradled his hand. The alarm kept wailing. Above us, a door opened. Security. I raised my hands, stepped back. I'm not fighting you. Coward. Realist. Security arrived. 2 guards, flashlights cutting through shadow. They took in the scene. Blake's broken hand. Me standing calm. What's going on here? Mr. Rydell attacked me. I defended myself. Camera caught everything. Blake's face twisted. He's lying. Camera's right there. I pointed. Pull the footage. The guards exchanged looks. One spoke into his radio. Both of you need to come with us, now. Of course. They walked us upstairs. Separate offices. I sat and waited. 2 hours later, Linda Rowe appeared. She looked exhausted. They pulled the footage. Backs up your story. Blake threw the first punch. I know. He's filing assault charges. That won't hold. Self-defense. Plus he's got the broken hand. Camera shows him hitting the pillar. Evan. She sat down across from me. This needs to stop. It will. Soon. Is that a threat? It's an observation. Blake's done. Tara's done. The audit's finishing. What else is there? There's you. What you've become. I met her eyes. What have I become? Someone who uses policy as a weapon. Someone who believes rules matter. That's not justice. That's revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. Linda sighed. Go home. Take the rest of the week. HR will contact you about Blake's assault claim. You'll probably need to give a statement. Fine. She walked me to the elevator. As the doors opened, she spoke again. Was it worth it? Ask me in a month. The doors closed. I drove home through pre-dawn light. The city waking up, traffic building, normal people starting normal days. I wasn't normal anymore. Maybe I never had been. The apartment was still dark. I didn't turn on lights, just sat by the window and watched the sun rise over the bay. My phone buzzed. Email from HR. Subject, final documentation required. I opened it. Request for all remaining evidence related to the ethics investigation. Final interview scheduled for Monday. After that, the audit would close. I forwarded everything I had. Badge swipes, parking logs, expense reports, text messages, calendar conflicts. 7 months of data distilled into one comprehensive file. Then I drafted an email to Linda. Attached is complete documentation of policy violations by Blake Rydell and Tara Marsh. Badge swipes show 63 instances of undisclosed meetings over 7 months. Expense reports show $2,847 in fraudulent reimbursements. Calendar conflicts demonstrate deliberate deception regarding work locations. Company resources were used to facilitate and conceal an undisclosed relationship between an HR partner and another employee, creating clear conflict of interest. Recommend immediate termination of both parties for gross policy violation. All evidence obtained through legal means via official IT requests and compliance processes. I stand by every item in this report. If you need anything else, let me know. I hit send before I could second guess it. The sun climbed higher. Light filled the apartment. Empty space that would stay empty. My phone rang. Tara, I answered. What do you want? They're firing me. Her voice was hollow. Monday, Linda just called. I know. You won. Are you happy? No? Then why did you do this? Because someone had to. Silence. Then softly. I'm sorry. For which part? The affair? The lying? Or getting caught? All of it. Too late. I know. More silence. The divorce papers will arrive next week, I said. Sign them. Move out. That's all I need from you. Evan. Goodbye, Tara. I hung up, blocked her number. Then I sat there, phone in hand, watching the city come alive below. It was over. Really over. Blake fired, Tara fired, marriage ended. 7 years erased like chalk on a sidewalk. People would call me vindictive, cruel, cold, they'd be right. But they'd also be wrong. Because this wasn't about cruelty. It was about clarity. About refusing to pretend. About looking at the data and drawing the only logical conclusion. My phone buzzed one final time. Text from Derek. Heard about Blake and Tara. Wow. You okay? I typed back. Yeah, I'm fine. And the strange thing was, I meant it. I stood up, closed the curtains. The apartment went dim again, safe and quiet. Outside, the city continued. People working, living, lying, loving, breaking rules, facing consequences. Inside, I was finally alone, and that was exactly what I wanted. The rain had stopped. Light filtered through gaps in the curtains, casting bars of shadow across the floor. I walked to my desk, opened my laptop one last time, found the file labeled Budget Review 2024 and deleted it, then emptied the trash. Evidence gone, not destroyed, already submitted, but gone from my life. I closed the laptop. Then I picked up my phone and called Linda Rowe. Evan? I'm done. The file's sent. Everything you need. I'm not giving any more interviews. Not testifying if Blake appeals. I'm done. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, I'll note it. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what had to happen. Maybe, but still. I hung up. The apartment felt larger now. Empty space expanding. I'd bought this place 5 years ago with my own money, before the marriage, before Tara moved in and changed everything, made it hers. Now I'd take it back. Repaint, refurnish, make it mine again, or maybe I'd sell it. Start over somewhere else. Different city, different job, different life. That was the gift of destruction. Once everything burns, you can build whatever you want from the ashes. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Mr. Marsh? This is Patricia Morgan. I wanted to let you know the audit is closing Monday. Final report will recommend termination for both Blake Rydell and Tara Marsh. Your cooperation was essential. The company appreciates it. Good. There's one more thing. Blake filed a retaliation claim. It's being dismissed as baseless, but legal wanted me to tell you, in case he tries to contact you. He won't. How do you know? Because he's smart enough to know it's over. Pause. Then, I hope you're right. Me too. I hung up. 7 months of planning, 3 weeks of execution, over.